Welcome to Beyond the Shelf with Dave Feinlieb. This show is an open exploration of the people and process behind e-commerce. Through conversations with innovators in the space, we learn the stories of these leaders and their strategies for e-commerce success. We publish new episodes every Tuesday morning, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And now, here's your host, Dave Feinlieb.
Today's guest has operated bakeries and business plans and knows a thing or two about how to grow with the times. She's worked for some of the biggest food and beverage brands in the country, including PepsiCo, Kodiak Cakes, and Red Bull. With extensive experience in retail media and marketing, along with in-store and on-the-ground marketing, there are few endeavors she hasn't encountered in her 13-year career. And with all of that experience, she's taken steps to share the wealth. Please welcome founder and CEO of Hayden Consultancy, Eleanor Hayden. Eleanor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. That was so nice.
So 10 years in food and beverage, you know a lot about the space, and now you're running your own agency. I'd love to start off by talking about what made you take the leap and how it's been since launching, 4 years ago now?
Yeah, almost 4 years. Very close. Very close to 4 years. We'll June. But yeah, you mentioned I worked at Pepsi, and then I moved on to Kodiak Cakes and built out the shopper marketing department there. And then I did the same thing at Siete Foods, which full circle because of the acquisition. But yeah, about 4 years ago, my husband and I were becoming foster parents, and Siete was actually an amazing place to work in that time. They were so supportive, and it was just it was really cool. But ultimately I decided I wanted to spend a little bit more time with my family. And so I was like, I'll just start consulting, on the side. So I'll stop working full time. I'll do some consulting with some CPG brands and spend a lot of time with the kids, and it'll be great, which was awesome. I started doing that, and it was really wonderful. It really gave me the opportunity and the flexibility to be able to kind of fulfill that lifelong goal of mine to be a foster parent and do that. And, you make plans and God laughs, right? We were just planning on being foster parents for a little bit and giving the kids back to their bio parents. And, we actually met our son through the program. So we adopted our oldest son, and then I had actually gotten pregnant pretty soon after that too. And because we were like, well, if we're going to have kids, we should, he's almost 3. So we should probably have one soon. So then I was pregnant, and I was like, well, I am going to need someone to come on and help me watch my accounts and take care of the brands that I'm working with while I take a little bit of time to be with my newborn baby. So that's when I brought on Olivia, who's now the COO. But, she, of course, did an incredible job while I was out. And I was like, wait a minute, that went pretty well. And maybe now I can have her manage accounts and I'll manage accounts. And then we just expand on that. So next thing we knew, we started bringing on more consultants, and fast forward to today, we're a group of 12 shopper marketers, and we work with over 25 CPG brands, all in the emerging and mid-market space. And we've just had some really unbelievable success and really amazing milestones over the last 4 years. Just between, this year, Instacart announced their top 75 fastest growing emerging brands list for 2024. And 8 of those brands were actually under our management. So it was just amazing to see that kind of growth and support, and being able to support these brands in such a special way. Very cool.
Congratulations on taking the entrepreneurial leap, first of all. It's great, and excited to see your growth, and excited to see you be recognized by an industry leader like Instacart. So that's amazing to have that happen. The shopper during this time, you launched this right at the start of the pandemic. How has the shopper and the shopper behavior changed in that time that you've been working on this?
So interesting. Yeah. So it's kind of crazy because when I was at Kodiak Cakes, a lot of my experience really was more traditional shopper marketing focused. We were trying to say, how do we take the shopper marketing that, everyone knows from General Mills, Kellogg's, like these giant kind of industry leaders. And how do we make that more accessible for smaller brands, right? Because, they're working with these multi-million-dollar budgets. And when I had joined Kodiak Cakes, it was a smaller brand at the time. I think, around 50 million probably. And, so we didn't have these crazy huge budgets. So how could we get scrappy and build shopper marketing programs that engage with shoppers, give them a memorable experience, and really like not just, online, but in store. And so, at Kodiak Cakes, I got all this experience doing a lot of cool in-store and more like connection activations. And then I went over to work at Siete, and a few months into my role, COVID hits. And, it's like, wait a minute, like all this shopper marketing that we wanted to do in store. And luckily it was pretty cool because before the pandemic, I got some exposure to Instacart while I was at Kodiak Cakes. It was actually before Instacart even had like a real platform. They just were, they were sending like Excel docs back and forth of bid changes. And that's how they were kind of like making changes in the system. And then by the time I got to Siete, they had the back end. And so we were building out all the all the retail media and like sponsored search programs, things like that when I was at Siete Foods. And then COVID hit, and then it was like, oh my gosh, that stuff just all took off, right? Like online grocery went nuts, and everyone had their preferred platform. And so we were on everything, and so, yeah, since then, I mean, the pandemic has come and gone, but people definitely are still ordering groceries online, and it's only growing more and more. So from a retail media perspective, I'd say like that's been the biggest piece that's probably changed over the last, 10 years. I think one thing that I'm excited about that like has a lot more opportunity is actually kind of bringing back some of that scrappy shopper marketing. I think everyone's their eyes are really big for sponsored search right now.
For sure.
And I'm here for it. Like, I love it. I'm super passionate about it. I think we are the best in the industry at managing sponsored search. Like, I can go on and on about that service. But what really kind of completes and wraps it up with a bow is a full shopper marketing support plan. And so bringing that more to these emerging and mid-market brands, I'm really passionate and excited about doing. And that's what we do today.
Love it. What's an example of something that you can maybe have the big budget for, but that you would take a more scrappy approach to doing?
Oh, that's such a good question. A lot of brands first kind of in-store engagement thought is like demos. Everyone's like, okay, so should we do demos? Like that drives trial, right? Like you're physically handing a sample to people in the store. But in-store demos are so often like so poorly executed. Unless, of course, you have like the CEO or founder at like the Whole Foods on a Saturday, like passionately talking about the brand. Sure, that's great, but it's not scalable. It's really, really hard. And so even companies who come to me and say like, we have these multi-million-dollar budgets, and they say like, okay, let's do some demos. I'm like, I'm still going to try to change your mind. I still don't think it's an effective use of spend. And it's like, if you really want to drive, if you're so focused and saying, I really want to drive trial of this product. I really believe that if people taste it, they'll buy it again and again and again. Then let's give them an opportunity to taste it, but can we do it in a more effective way? So can we offer a free can? Can we come up with some sort of fun campaign that will bring people into the store to grab a free can or bar or whatever it is, whether it's through a free product coupon or some sort of offer and program. So like that's kind of like an example of where I would recommend switching things up a little bit.
Speaking of stores, Ballistic Bake Shop, can you tell us about it?
Oh my
and
gosh.
Tell us about your approach? And have you always been a self-starter?
What a throwback. That's so fun. Have I always been? I think I've always known I wanted to be an entrepreneur. My parents are entrepreneurs. My parents immigrated here in like the 80s, and it was like such a classic like American dream story. My dad was like, he was like driving taxis, and like he worked in the deli at Kroger, and like my mom was a waitress and like barely spoke English, and like they together started their own business, and like that has been supporting all of our like they supported us through everything growing up, and it was amazing. And I think it's just like always been like ingrained in me. And so, yeah, when I was in college, I was really into CPG. I went to school in Boulder, so I was really close to it all. I interned at Rudy's, the bread company. And that was actually when Jane Miller was the CEO there the first time. So a while ago. But she, I remember kind of connecting with her and asking her for some mentorship because I was like, I really think I like want to kind of start my own CPG one day. And I decided to just go for it. I was like, well, I'll start off by like selling. So I made cake balls and I was selling them. I had a commercial kitchen in Boulder and I was selling them to like coffee shops and little like delicatessens and around campus, like on the little like campus coffee
Amazing.
shop. I sold a ton to sororities for like their sorority, rush and all of that. So it was really cool, really fun like experience. I got like experience learning about like registering a business, EIN number, taxes, like all that stuff. It was a very good dry run.
All the details. I love the way you started out. From there, PepsiCo, another incredible company to work for. What did you learn there that maybe at one of these really incredible and brand and also very large set of brands to work with? What were some of your takeaways there, maybe that were different from your earlier experiences?
Yeah, Pepsi was a grind. I mean, so I was part of their campus development or campus recruitment program. So they put you in a very like traditional sales role. But for sales for Pepsi is, I mean, you're walking in and out of gas stations and convenience stores and trying to get them to increase their current like assortment. So how do we get more space? So it was a grind and definitely not, when you're in college, you're like, I'm going to work at Pepsi. Like it's going to be this fancy office. And then like I walk in and like I'm working in a closet, I'm just kidding. Pepsi was amazing. It was really a great experience. Honestly, it was a lot of really hard work. The days started at as early as 3 a.m., depending on the team that you were on.
Wow.
Yeah, because you got to get there before so when you're on grocery, you have to get there before the grocery stores open.
Right.
So yeah, it was a really solid foundation. And it made me, of course, also really appreciate like the calmer life when I switched over to
For sure.
emerging CPG. But again, I'm really grateful for my experience at Pepsi because it gave me such a really great, solid training and foundation for the rest of my career.
Amazing places to do some learning, to learn the on-the-ground work. And then I'd love to switch gears and talk about your consultancy, Hayden Consultancy. Again, started about coming up on 4 years ago now. What do clients come to you for? What kind of help do they need?
Yeah, so a lot of times, our business actually so far has been completely run on referrals. So like when I first started it, I just reached out to a few brand friends and was like, is this something you'd be interested in? And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And I started working with them. And then it was just like kind of word of mouth. And we've been doing it that way for the last 4 years, luckily, because I'm like really uncomfortable with like cold calling. Like that just sounds a little bit, hey, my name's Eleanor and I sell shopper marketing. So, I think in what really has for us, like the value we really provide to these brands is, first off, shopper marketing is still fairly niche. I think everybody wants to figure it out because they understand like the value and how it can help drive velocities in store, online, all the things, and just like the real raw like results. So with us, when we work with brands, we're full service shopper marketing agency. We will plan, build, strategize, and execute and do all the post-program analyses on all shopper marketing efforts. And then we also run all of retail media for brands. And our retail media strategy is very unique as well. We're the only agency, as far as I know, that run completely hands-on keys. We don't utilize any automations or AI to manage any of our campaigns. And the reason for that is honestly because we haven't found anything that's good enough yet. We've tested tons of different programs, all of the major ones that you probably already know of. And they just didn't meet our standards of excellence as it relates to supporting these brands in the way that we know they deserve to be supported. So we just continue to do hands-on keys and work really manually, but it's just what works the best. So.
And from what I understand, the performance from you doing this approach has really paid off for these brands that you work with.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's been pretty insane to see. We've worked with over 75 brands now over the last 4 years. And we haven't had it happen where we brought a brand over. Like, we've only experienced brands growing from a gross profitability perspective and a new to brand perspective, which naturally includes ROAS growth as well, and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest reasoning for that is just because, like, the person who's managing your account, who's coming to these calls every single week, who's understanding your brand, learning about your biggest competitors, is also the person that's managing those campaigns. We can actually go and say, like, oh, you know what? They did mention that this competitor is like on sale this week, or this competitor has been prospecting them a lot. How do we make sure that we have a really strong defensive strategy against them, or highlighting specific keywords that we know the brand has called out and wants to really win in? And so being able to customize that experience per brand is not something that we've seen in automation or AI be able to do.
This episode of Beyond the Shelf is brought to you by It's Rapid. It's Rapid is the platform Pepsi, Mondelez, Instacart, and hundreds of other leading brands and retailers use to build personalized content at scale. Whether that's images, videos, or product descriptions for their product detail pages, shoppable videos or banners for their digital ad campaigns, or sell sheets for sales enablement, brands that use It's Rapid are able to produce high-quality, on-brand content on average more than 80% faster than category competitors. To find out more, please visit itsrapid.ai.
I'm a brand. I'm coming to you. I want some help with my online sales. How do you guide me? Where do we start?
Yeah, I think we take a look at your current distribution. What retailers are you in right now? What are your planned opportunities? Are you trying to, I mean, everyone wants more distribution, right? But I guess, what retailer meetings do you have coming up? Do you have new product launches coming up? So we kind of take note of all of these things. We learn a little bit about their category. We really collect as much information as we can. Then we go on our own and do a lot of research to understand the category. The nice part too is, with us have been working on so many brands, we've really already worked in so many categories. Like, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, I know tons about that. Like, or candy, sure, I'm happy to help. So being able to kind of have a lot of that. And then we come back and we give them a recommendation of what makes the most sense in terms of how to work with us from both a shopper marketing, retail media perspective. And then, we meet with these brands every week or so, or biweekly, depending on the brand, of course. But yeah, and we're just always giving feedback. I think the biggest thing too is, like, we're constantly evolving our goals. For us, I think one of the things that always bothered me being on the brand side was, like, every time I'd get results from some sort of ad campaign, it would always be like the results from that month. And they'd be like, yeah, compared to March of last year, you grew 100%. And I'm like, well, I freaking hope so. Like, with being an emerging brand, I really hope I grew year over year. But how have we been doing month over month? So, like, it's really important to us to be, all of our reporting is month over month reporting, and we can kind of action on that. We can say, hey, this month, like, we actually see a little bit of opportunity to increase that new to brand, or, grow our gross profitability. How are we going to do that? Let's execute it. So we are just really quickly shifting and,
being candid and really thinking about the metrics that matter. Like you said, it's always nice to look at the ones that look good, but perhaps aren't relevant. But being honest with yourself about the metrics and where the brand is and what we can do is so important.
And being, like, really focused on, like, a long-term growth strategy for us. One of our biggest things we tell brands too, I feel like a good chunk of the job is also, like, helping with, like, mitigating expectations. We'll have, like, the first month or two come in, and of course it's really exciting. They're like, wow, we've never seen results like this. Okay, double the budget. And we're like, wait, let me explain why it's not the right move to, double your budget today. And so, helping brands really understand like ROAS is not linear and all of that.
This is so great. You mentioned retail media, search. I'd love to get your perspective on how are brands investing in search, in display? What's kind of the mix that you're seeing?
We optimize search and display a little bit differently from each other. So when we think about search, we're really focused on growing our business through non-branded terms and competitive terms. So how do we really win as much as we can on non-branded competitive? We don't like to spend on branded, but in some scenarios you need a little bit for a defensive strategy if you're in a really competitive category. So understandable. But then when we look at shoppable display, we're really focused on, of course, like more of that like non-branded competitive placements, but really an opportunity for complementary placements, because shoppable display, when you think about it, it's like when you're walking through the grocery store, like there's a reason a secondary placement in the grocery store is also called a display. It's the same thing, right? So like, can we have this, cereal product show up in the produce aisle? How do we get shoppers? So, if we were working on a cereal product, we'd be bidding on the keyword strawberries. Or how do we find just like these complementary items to help bring new shoppers into our digital aisle, so to speak. So when we're allocating budget, I mean, it's tough to say specifically because every client is so different. But we try to make sure both are equally optimized based on like their, projections of new to brand and ROAS and all of that, because we want to keep them very efficient.
Now, if I'm a larger brand, of course, I have a significant budget to invest in this. If I'm an emerging brand, are there minimums? Where should I start? What should I think about investing when I'm starting out?
Yeah, that's a really great question. It kind of depends on how you're setting up. So if you're going to manage in-house, I think there's no minimum. Give it a try. Instacart, especially, they offer an optimized bidding product. It's like it'll manage the campaigns for you. It's a great tool to use if you don't have someone to manage. If you don't have like an expert who can manage the campaigns manually for you. If you want to engage with an agency, I think like the biggest call out I will mention is asking that agency, are you using optimized bidding or are you using manual? Because I actually have found there's some agencies out there that are utilizing optimized bidding, which it just feels a little bit fraudulent to me. I'm like, you're paying someone to toggle a little button on and type in the ROAS number for you every month. So that kind of kills me. I mean, I understand in some situations, some brands like to test out optimized bidding. We've had a few brands that are like, well, we really want to test out the optimized bidding function for new to brand. So we'll execute that. In addition to all of our others, we'll say, okay, let's try it on one product line if you really want to see. But every time we've done it, we've ended up turning it off because the performance has just not been as strong as ours, which is how it should be. Like if you're having someone manually manage, like we should be better than the robot. So as it relates to spends, I think, it kind of varies on different, have a conversation with me, have a conversation with another agency, hear a little bit more. Everyone has a little bit different pricing models. I've seen a lot of people who do retainers for Instacart management, which is usually those are like independent consultants doing that. Most large agencies or just agencies in general will charge based on a percentage of ad spend. I don't personally believe in charging on percent of ad spend just because of I don't know. I think to me, I'm like, I don't want to be measured based on how much I could spend for you. Though I do understand brands enjoy that because it's so predictable. Like they can know exactly what their spend is going to be on the agency fees. But for us, we have a pay for performance model that's based on percent of gross profitability. So how we calculate that, we take your ad revenue minus your ad spend, and that's the gross profitability piece. The reason we don't do it on a percent of revenue is just because, like, again, if you increase ad spend, you'll increase revenue. So we really want the brands to have that understanding of like how important it is to us, even if that means I have to explain our calculation really a lot to people.
So not just more spend, but profitable spend.
Profitable spend, exactly. So for us, we're doing it on like the percentage of gross profit, and that piece is, I think, so important because again, like we don't win unless you win. I guess I sound like an accident attorney when I say that, but
that could be the title of this podcast. We'll see. We'll let our producer. Perhaps we found the tagline for this one, but these are great insights, and I think give our listeners a great perspective on really your unique approach to the industry and the business. Now, you had an article recently in Forbes about the future of retail media. Any thoughts you can share with us? What's on the horizon for the rest of this year, even as we head into 2026?
Yes, for sure. I have a few thoughts. So there are some grumblings of Target RMS potentially releasing self-serve display ads, which would be honestly, I would pop a bottle of champagne on that day. I feel like it's something that small brands have wanted access to for so long, but haven't been able to get that access. It's there's no one that sells on-site Target ads other than Target Roundel, which is fair. They own that whole all of that real estate. But what's a real struggle for brands is that to participate in any of Target's on-site ad placements, there's a $75K minimum commit. And actually, what we're hearing this year is that they're now actually requiring a yearly commit of at least $500K across their platform to get to participate, which is making it even less accessible to smaller brands, which you just got to wonder. I'm like, okay, are you guys, are the sales peeps talking to the marketing people here? Because, Target has been investing so much in small brands. I feel like they've been really like putting in a lot of effort to bring small CPG into their stores. And I'm like, wow, they can't even market. So how are they going to survive?
And certainly we're seeing self-serve in other parts of the industry. So
exactly.
Yeah.
So I do think that that's going to be part of this like migration they've been doing into RMS over the last like 6 months or so. So that's kind of the first piece that I am excited about. And then in terms of like other kind of retail media changes, I feel like we're going to see a lot more in-store digital signage. I feel like that's been coming up a ton. I don't know if you've been seeing that, but it's like every purchase event and I don't know, just everywhere I'm seeing like everybody talking about it. I know it's like a big innovation item.
Mm-hmm. Also enough screens now to have an interesting surface to think about.
Exactly. Yeah. The only thing I kind of struggle with on that is a lot of times like you have to partner with a DSP provider to run those. And I'm not against that if I could guarantee that like Whole Foods, for example, Whole Foods has these in-store digital signage pieces. And I'm like, which we haven't gotten to run just yet. So I'm excited to stay close to one of those. But I think like my concern, I always honestly get a little bit nervous when I think about DSP and offsite because I just want to be sure we're getting like the ad placements that we're here, so it's like if we're talking about Whole Foods in-store digital signage, I just want to make sure that the brand is actually all that whole spend is going towards the digital signage and we're not like, throwing in some ESPN and weather.com and all that.
Eleanor, these are such great insights, great topics. I have our everyone else calls it the lightning round. Here at It's Rapid, we call it the rapid round. So I'll take you through a few fun questions here. First of all, your go-to comfort food.
Oh my gosh. Mac and cheese.
Standout brands that your kids love.
Oh, there's so many good ones. Yumi, they make bars and like smoothie melts and other amazing baby products that are also organic and taste good. Like they actually taste good. So Yumi bars, both of my sons love Stonyfield's pouches. We buy those insanely in bulk. And I'd say like those are the top two.
Any favorite recipes you like to make if you're not working with the brands, all the great brands that you work with?
Honestly, anything I can make to hide vegetables for my children. My oldest son's actually not so bad. He's pretty good about eating vegetables. My toddler, he's only like 18 months old, and I swear he knows if it's green, I'm not touching it. I'll be like, you've never had this before. You've literally never consumed this.
Why don't I don't want it. I know that. I've seen that movie. Nope, no, don't want
literally.
it. Yeah.
So
yeah, that's a good one. Biggest mentors or one of your biggest mentors?
Yeah, I would say right now is actually my coach, Ben Easter at Lucid Shift Coaching. He's incredible. I've learned so much. So
I'm sure it's valuable in every walk of life, but especially focused on the startup and the growth stage, so helpful. So I'm excited that you're doing that. And outside of work, what do you like to do to unwind?
Unwind.
Got the kids, so not sure if you have any time to unwind, but
I'm in the thick of it with my babies being 5 and 1.5. But I love, like, we do family grocery trips every weekend, and I love taking my kids to the park or just going on walks and being outside as much as we can and trying to squeeze in a family vacation here and there. But I'm just loving spending time with my husband and my baby on my babies on my time off.
Eleanor, I've really enjoyed our conversation. Eleanor Hayden with Hayden Consultancy. If our listeners want to reach you online, what's the best way for them to do that?
Oh, yeah. Just find me on LinkedIn, just Eleanor Hayden, pretty easy. And our website, haydenconsultancy.com, if you want to check things out.
Perfect. And a shout out to our mutual friend, Brian Gildenberg of Retail Cities, who put us in touch. Brian, if you're listening, thank you.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed this conversation with you, Eleanor, and hope you'll come back on the pod here at Beyond the Shelf.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been great. I appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of Beyond the Shelf. If you enjoy the show, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave us a review. It really helps us grow. And feel free to share us with your colleagues so they too can hear weekly perspectives from the brightest minds in e-commerce. You can also check us out on LinkedIn, where we post clips from each episode, share Dave's takes on breaking industry news, and much more. Beyond the Shelf is a production of It's Rapid. Our host is Dave Feinlieb, and our producers are Sean Levy-Ashvili and Jake Musiker. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Beyond the Shelf.